Blog Talk Radio.
Hello everyone, today is February 28th, 2010. My name is Jerry Ciolino and this is the Jerry Ciolino Show, and today's subjects are: a school in Pennsylvania is getting sued for using webcams and school-issued laptops to spy on students in their own homes, and how big corporations like Microsoft and Google have similar access to nearly all laptops, desktops, microphones, and webcams and are using its technology to spy on us on behalf of Big Brother. How kangaroos at a Florida zoo have died from fluoride poisoning, from fluoride in their food, and how this same water is being drunk by locals, and how many other municipal water supplies have also been tainted with dangerous levels of fluoride and other deadly chemicals. And I will make the case for the impeachment and arrest of President Obama, his entire administration, and the big bankers who have bought and paid for them. But first, it is time for another edition of what looks like will be a regular segment on this show about how Glenn Beck is betraying the Liberty Movement. It is time for BECKadict Arnold. On today's edition of BECKadict Arnold, Glenn Beck has flip-flopped yet again, this time on global warming. In a recent article entitled "Don't Judge Beck by His Cover," when asked about global warming, Glenn Beck said, quote, "You'd be an idiot not to notice the temperature change. There's a legit case that global warming has at least been caused by mankind," unquote. Well, here's Glenn Beck on his show calling global warming the greatest scam in history.
Well, full disclosure, this is a shameless plug here. I've got a new book coming out next week called An Inconvenient Book, Real Solutions to the World's Biggest Problems. And today I'm going to give you a preview of Chapter 1 called Global Warming, Storming and Conforming. I wrote this chapter basically as kryptonite for you to use against your gore-worshipping psycho friends. The next time they tell you how global warming causes all sorts of massive natural disasters, you say, "Really? That's interesting, because I heard somewhere, I'm trying to remember, that deaths per year from extreme weather are down 95% since the 1920s. Sure, you'll be unhip and friendless, but at least you'll be accurate. Anyway, as I put the chapter together, the thing that struck me, the thing that was more amazing to me than the facts that I was finding, was the fact that no one wanted to talk about those facts. If a scientist says that temperatures are up 0.01 degree, lead story around the country in every newspaper. But when somebody with decades of experience comes out and says global warming is a manufactured crisis, no one cares, and you can hear a pin drop. How do I know? Because that is exactly what happened last week when the founder of the Weather Channel wrote an article that began, and I quote, "It is the greatest scam in history. I'm amazed, appalled, and highly offended by it. Global warming. It is a scam." But since that opinion doesn't fit nicely into the mouth of the media beast, hello NBC, you probably didn't hear a word about it. Well, now you will. John Coleman is the founder of the Weather.
Well, here's a clip of Glenn Beck on the UN report that says that reducing meat consumption will help curb global warming.
Now, there's some news that you need to pay attention to, and all this week on Friday we're going to be covering this for a full hour. The run-up to the big UN climate change conference in Copenhagen in December could mean the end of U.S. sovereignty. Today, the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee holds a hearing on clean energy, jobs, and American Power Act. The president has toured his solar energy center. Again, get a nap in, Mr. President, before you deal with the war. And then this story comes from the UK. Stop global warming by stop eating meat. If it sounds familiar, it's because the United Nations brought it up before. This time it comes from the UK's climate chief, Lord Stern Brentford. He told the Times of London, quote, meat is a wasteful use of water and creates a lot of greenhouse gases. It puts enormous pressure on the world's resources. A vegetarian diet is better. Good. Eat your carrot. I'm going to have a steak. Americans love our steaks. We love our chops. We love our burgers. And I ain't stopping. You'll throw me in jail. My last meal will be a giant steak. Are we going to stand for that? Are we going to put up with this? Well, you'd think not, but in Baltimore, Maryland, public schools have now started in the schools, no indoctrination here, Meatless Monday. No meat on the menu. For 80,000 kids that they serve, no meat. That way the students can, quote, eat and learn about healthy, environmentally friendly choices. School board did this in concert with a group called Meatless Monday, who say they are committed to cutting out meat one day a week for their health and the health of our planet. That's actually why I'm siding with PETA on this one. Once again, asking Al Gore, I don't have a phone for you, but maybe you could call the White House and they can put the call through here. If you really want to save the planet, Al, why don't you put down the cheeseburgers and pick up your veggie burger? Time for maybe soy milk and tofurkey. No more delicious chocolate cookies. No, no, no. How about a nice bean thing that we can eat? That is, if you want to save the planet, Al. I've said before, I disagree with PETA, but I respect PETA because they're the only ones that are not hypocrites on global warming. They say what they mean and mean what they say. I just happen to disagree with what they say, but hey, that's America. Except when it calls for Al Gore to eat tofu or someone to force me to eat it. What really scares me is, the Times writes our Lord Stern said, quote, a successful deal in climate change conference in Copenhagen in December would lead to soaring costs for meat and other foods that generate large quantities of greenhouse gases. Wow. I've heard something almost like that. What does that remind me of? Let me think.
Under my plan.
Okay, and here's one last clip of Glenn Beck. It's on the climate change email fraud.
A potentially major scandal is unfolding after someone released thousands of emails and documents sent between prominent scientists of global warming debate. The New York Times has verified that these emails are legitimate, which wasn't too hard because some of them were written by and to one of their reporters. More on that here in just a second. But first, let's start with the science that has been so settled for all these years. What are these guys saying behind closed doors about their so-called bulletproof consensus? Well, Kevin Tentberth, he's a climatologist at the National Center for Atmospheric Research. He wrote, quote, the fact is we can't account for the lack of warming at the moment, and it's a travesty that we can't. Incorrect data, inadequate systems, yeah, travesty, pretty good word for it. How about Phil Jones, head of the Climatic Research Unit at the University of East Anglia? I have just completed Mike's nature trick of adding in the real temps to each series for the last 20 years to hide the decline. Yes, he's talking about a trick that another scientist previously used in a peer-reviewed journal to apparently hide the decline in temperatures. Incredible. But it doesn't stop there. How about when scientific journals published material that Jones didn't like? Quote, I can't see either of these papers being in the next IPCC report. Kevin and I will keep them out somehow, even if we have to redefine what the peer review literature is, end quote. Think about that next time you hear about, oh, the consensus and the science is settled, and Al Gore is bragging about the peer-reviewed journals. Now, what happens to a peer-reviewed paper when they disagree with what gets published? Quote, our only choice is to ignore this paper. They've already achieved what they wanted. But at least they're not intentionally deleting documents or hiding information, right? Oh, no, they're doing that too. Here's Phil Jones, writing Michael Mann, the scientist that came up with that hockey stick graph, that one. He said, Mike, Can you delete any emails you may have had with Keith